All right, thanks for everybody coming back. Note to self for me, that is probably not the place in the future that I will break off. I noticed out in the hallways, all the ladies were looking at all the men, trying to figure out if they were the one or not, and I just kind of left everybody hanging on that. So what we'll do is we're going to jump into what does the man look like that makes up the demand. And when I talk demand, as far as consumer demand, it's guys, it's guys, it's guys, it's guys. It's guys. In case you were wondering who makes up the consumer demand in America, it's men. All you women are off the hook. Men are the problem. If we get men to change their hearts culturally, then this is ended. It's good. So that's why I really like, this is my favorite segment. This is my favorite because I feel like if I can implement what I'm about to talk about, if I can make this stick, then really, truly, we can end trafficking, at least in America, where we still have the slightest amount of value for women. It's changing, but we still have a small foothold that we can climb this mountain with. So who are those men? Well, let me tell you what I like to do. Fighting demand, yes, it is the least risky way to fight demand. It's the least dangerous way to fight trafficking, excuse me. But we kind of push the envelope a little bit at Vigilante Truth. Two things we do. One, we will take adult massage parlors, and those are everywhere. And again, as a disclaimer for this segment, I get a legitimate massage every week. I believe in massages. They feel good. My body is healthier because of it. I am not picking on legitimate massage therapy. Therapeutic massage. I'm not picking on that at all. I think that's a necessary thing, personally, for society. But there are adult massage parlors. That's the term. Now, I'm an adult. I go to regular massage parlors, but they have termed these adult massage parlors. I guess like the adult entertainment industry, right? At these adult massage parlors, they provide what is called a happy ending, which means they're brothels, whorehouses, all kinds of terrible names, houses of ill repute. Are you getting my point? These are places that you go in pretending to get a massage and end up having sex. And those massage parlors are full of smiling, happy, customer service-oriented young ladies. It appears to be consensual sex yet again. But what you do not see is on the backside when you've left, when the operation closes down for the night, the traffickers come. Sometimes they pick the girls up and take them away. More often than not, those girls are actually forced to live there in the parlor, in a back room, on a dirty, nasty mattress. Food is brought in, clothes are brought in. Those girls are forced to live there under those conditions. 10, 15 minutes a day, every day, never allowed to leave. But for some way, some survival instinct is going to allow that female to smile her way all the way through. So what we like to do is post up outside these places with our teams, and we just simply like to take pictures of the men coming and going. We like to take pictures of their cars, and we like to take pictures of their license tags. And then once a week, we like to take one of those locations where we've put all those pictures together, and we like to post them on Facebook for everybody to see. I have a lot of fans. We get tens of thousands of views, as you can imagine. Everybody wanting to see if it's their boss or their husband or a neighbor that's coming and going. Employee coming or going. Why do we do that? Because I realize that if the men think that we're going to be there to take their picture, by the way, 80% of all men would never pay for commercial of the men who pay for commercial sex. 80% of them would never pay for commercial sex again if they thought family or friends would know about it. So by us making it very uncomfortable for them, that most likely, if they continue going, they're going to end up on the backside of our camera lens and on the front page of our Facebook post. Maybe men will quit going to that establishment. And maybe instead of there being 3 girls there, like the bottles of Tide we talked about earlier, maybe then there'll only be 2 girls there. And one of those girls is set free. So we do that. The other thing we like to do is we like to pose on the internet as a prostitute and lure men into a hotel room situation, and we minister to them. I'm not law enforcement, and we don't do law enforcement things. I just want to get a chance to talk to them, one-on-one, in the trenches, caught red-handed. What are you doing here? Don't you know that you're paying the pimp to rape the girl? I had no idea. I'll bet you didn't. I'll bet you do now. And by the way, click. If you ever come back or I see your number pop back up on our screen, your little face is going to be on Facebook. I promise you, those guys wish I was law enforcement. They wish all that was going to happen was they're going to get locked up. Because the last thing they want to do is be exposed. I used the word exposed earlier in the segment, the last segment. Exposed. No man wants to be exposed. And here's what I've learned. What they don't want to be exposed is the brokenness in them. Now this is its own segment because this is kind of tough for some of you to deal with. And it's going to be hard for you to balance this out with everything I've already said. But what we have found is, of the men whose pictures we've taken, of the men who have sat and spent an hour with me at a hotel, they are an 18-year-old high school senior, they are a 60-year-old church organ player, they're doctors, race car drivers, business owners, employees of business owners, college students. They are black, they are white, they are Asian, they are Indian. Some physically can have sex, and here's a brain twister, some physically are incapable of having sex. Physically. I've sat knee to knee with every one of these people. What I described was some are got a little bit of money, some got a whole lot of money. Some have no power. Some have lots of power. Some have terrible relationships. Some have exceptional relationships. Some are having all kinds of sex at home. Some are having no sex at home. It's everything. Everything that you think that drives a man to these experiences, you're wrong. All the excuses that these men use to self-justify to be there, they're wrong. Over the course of an hour, because I hold that person's life in my hand, I'm able to take them to places that they won't normally go. But one of those places, we get there by me saying to them, why are you really here? Now you think it would be self-evident. Our ads are pretty good-looking women. And the decoy answering the door is a pretty good-looking woman. So you would think that question would be silly. In fact, the first time I heard myself say it, I thought it was a stupid question to ask, until the young man, a 22-year-old, answered the question. And he answered it by saying, "Because I hurt." And then he started bawling. He started bawling and expressed and told me his deepest, darkest hurt. That was the first time I ever asked that question. You know, I asked that question every time since then. And every time I answer it, except for 2 times out of 2 years of this, only 2 times did a man jump up and run out of the room. And the reality is, he didn't want to face the truth of his brokenness. He did not want to face the hurt. But every other man wanted to stay. And what I found is this: broken men are self-medicating with the commercial sex trade. You know, half the men that show up at a hotel room don't even want to have sex, they just want to talk. The victims will tell you that. Almost half and half. Men have 2 things that make them up, that they need full: intimacy and power. In the commercial sex trade, if you're lacking in those 2 things by trauma, your own hurt, your own brokenness, if you're lacking those 2 things, the commercial sex trade is a great place to find them. The girl will listen to you. She'll play girlfriend, she'll play wife, she'll play best friend. She'll sit there and listen to everything you say because her life depends on it. Not because she wants to, but she will sure look like she does. But she'll listen to every single word, pat you on the back, tell you to be okay, send you out the door. And then the other guy, he can get his power in this same motel room with the same girl because he can tell her what he wants to do, how he wants to do it, and which way he wants to do it, and whether it's going to be on the floor, the bed, or the ceiling. So he can fill both of those places there. But both of those places are empty, and both of those places are causing pain and hurt, and that's why men go there. I've learned it's all men. It's all men. It's every man. And because it's every man, back to demand conversations, because it's every man, it means it's got to be every kind of woman. One guy wants a cracked up, no-toothed mess of a female, and maybe that's all he can afford. But you got another guy over here that's willing to pay $5,000 an hour for a supermodel. She's going to need to be intelligent, have all her teeth, and have a conversation. And the trafficker is going to get the supply to meet the demand. So it's every guy, which means supply-wise, it can be every girl. Do you follow me there? Why is the city that I live in have such a terrible rank for sex trafficking? We have an international airport. There's something called sexual tourism. Men will fly into a country to have sex with the girls who live there. We've all heard of Thailand. American men fly to Thailand all the time to have sex with the Asian girls there, right? So the Asian men probably fly to America so they can have sex with American girls, right? Why do we think that we're protected from that? We're not. So if you have an international airport, men are flying in. The demand is coming to you. The next thing you'll have is professional sports. Why? Because men predominantly go to professional sports and watch it. And you know what? Sometimes they go to the game and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they go straight to the motel room as if they were going to the game, or sometimes after the game they go to the motel room and order in a pizza. Get me? Next thing would be conventions. That particular city has a great tourism industry, and it's great, and it makes everybody money. It's super for the city. We got a clean city. We got great people. Tourism's a wonderful thing, but it brings men to town. Conventions and tourism bring men to town. And so if you have men there, you have a pent-up demand for sex trafficking. And then the perfect storm is the big four, I call them. The last thing is transportation. So Charlotte, North Carolina has a huge trucking industry, so we have a lot of men coming to town in trucks. And so we have all four. I do work in Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas has a huge port there, so you have a lot of sailors coming to town. And you have a lot of oil workers, right? So you have a lot of men coming to town in transportation or certain industries that will drive more men to town than any other cities. Do you follow me there? It's always going to be about the demand. It's always going to be about the demand. I love this one. Oh, the poor girls are stuck in the massage parlors, and then the traffickers, to keep them where they don't know where they're at, they move them from massage parlor to massage parlor every month. They take this girl from here and they move her from here. Maybe they take her from Atlanta, Georgia, and then they move her to Charlotte, and then from Charlotte they move her to Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. to New York. That way she doesn't know what city she's in, and it's easier to control her. No. They move that girl to this one and replace her with another one. Because if I want to have sex with the same woman over and over and over, I'll go home to my wife. That's the truth. You can't leave a girl at this massage parlor day in, day out. I've already had sex with her. Get me another one. On any given day in Charlotte, there are 200 internet ads. I have 200 girls to pick from, 200 pizzas, different styles. Why do I need 200? Well, as I have this one, then I'll try this one. And pepperoni was good today, and sausage will be good tomorrow. Demand, demand, demand. Demand drives everything in this business. So let's not fight trafficking. Let's end trafficking. Let's focus on the demand. The guys, the broken men that are having sex with these girls, that are paying to have sex with these girls. This will be revolutionary to some of you. Let's heal the brokenness in the men. We do a great job, community, of getting a victim and restoring her to health. Can we not be compassionate enough to reach out to the men and restore them to health as well? Listen, I've been doing this a long time. I could not have made any of those statements in the first 6 months or the first year, probably even the first 2 or 3 years. But I'm so far down this road in a maturity level of understanding what it's really going to take to ripping back enough veils to understand what it's really going to take is we have to fight supply and demand equally in focus, equally in dollars, equally in resources. And to do that, we have to equally heal the women, heal the victims, heal the boys, heal the victims, and we have to heal the consumer demand that is self-medicating with these victims if we want to end the cycle. That's what we have to do. That's not as easy. I get that. Ladies in the crowd who have been sexually abused, that's not easy. I get that. If you've been trafficked, well, guess what? If you've been trafficked, you know exactly what I'm saying. Do you know who Vigilante Truth's biggest fans are? Trafficked females. We are 100% trafficked female approved. If there is such a thing, we have it. It blows my mind, but you know why it makes sense is because that girl had to deal with 10 to 15 men a day. Every day. Most of the time it was a different guy. Thousands of men a year. She knows what the problem is. She knows the problem is men. And you would think, therefore, she would want to lock up every man, might be the original thought process. But what she's done, because she has interacted with them on a very, what could be intimate level, she's heard them cry. She's heard their stories. She's heard their brokenness. She's seen their power needs. And what she knows is The only way to end it for the next girl is to heal all of those men. And that's why trafficking survivors, as they've gotten their healing, are able to understand and agree with this is the way to end trafficking, by fighting the demand. All right, that's enough. I probably have already ruined your lunch. Sorry about that. Let's meet back this afternoon, and I'm going into the last segment, segment 4, which will be the pricelessness of women. Thank you.